So today's guest on Exceptional Unplugged is someone who's worked with some of the biggest global brands. He's taken them to a different level altogether and has shown his expertise in the region as well. Someone who's had an edge in terms of strategy, growth, and transformation. Someone who's been able to connect the dots, challenge the environment, conventional in thinking, as well as push the boundaries. And one side of it, which we will discuss right at the end of this Exceptional Unplugged, where he will have to show some of his unplugged movements. Welcome, Ignacio, to Exceptional Unplugged. How are you today?
Thank you very much, Rajat. It's a pleasure for me to be here. Okay.
It's our pleasure as well.
It has been a few tough weeks in the office, but I was really looking forward to have this discussion. It's always a pleasure to be together with you, to relax and to brainstorm a bit about the future. Huh?
Yes, absolutely. Please have the coffee along because we'll have a lot of moments, just like in football, the ball exchanging in both the courts. So please enjoy that.
Thank you.
But you mentioned something about the kind of uncertain environment that we're in. Of course, the country has taken great amount of care for the citizens and residents. Just as someone at the top of your game, Ignacio, how does a CFO, someone who's taking control of the finances, avoid or not take any short-term decisions which could hamper the organization, when the situation gets perfectly normal? So how do you operate at that level?
Yes, thank you, Rajat, for the question. I think taking advantage of the words that you already mentioned, I think, first of all, we need to give a big thank you and acknowledge the work that the government is doing.
Absolutely.
Okay? The other day, I was stopped in a routine control by the police, and I thank them for taking care of us and the families. Okay, I think from a CFO point of view, I think that we normally in the organizations are the function that has the overview picture,
of course,
of the company. The role of the CFO in this moment, first of all, is to provide psychological safety to the teams.
Of course.
Okay. Nowadays, in Dubai, in UAE, even a few weeks ago or a few days ago, we had the mix of missiles, rain, tornadoes, homeschooling, everything. Yeah. Okay. So I think that the first thing is to give this safety to the team. Okay. The second is, of course, be able to identify what are the areas that the company needs to focus in order to capture early enough areas of risk? I think normally in this specific situation we are living, the first one is, of course, all the topic related to supply chain and logistics. Okay, so we see that how the ordering process in the company is being managed and how this supply and logistics situation is going to evolve. This is critical. Second topic, of course, for a finance associate and for the companies is cash flow. So how is all the topic related to liquidity, availability of funds, payments from the customers? Of course, we are a company that likes to be close to the customers, so some of them are already requesting facilities or easy things to maneuver already their situations, and we are keen to do that, okay? But at the same time also how we are going to pay our vendors and suppliers. This is also critical.
Sure.
And at the end, as I mentioned, is people. To keep also a very open agenda on the items that we need to focus, work as a team, connect the supply with the commercial, with finance, with HR, and to have really a team where touch and is aligned on all the decisions that are being taken. A scenario analysis, of course, fundamental. And at the end, shareholder management. I mean, at the end, we are here to generate value for our shareholders.
Of course.
So early communication on risk, early communication on actions to be implemented.
Yeah, you mentioned about one point, Ignacio, which is giving that kind of security to the team, that comfort to the field, because the region was in a little bit of uncertain kind of space. But how does Ignacio unplug and first of all get settled in his own way? What is it that keeps you a little bit of, take that step back and give you that kind of peace to yourself before you transfer that complete things to the team? What is it that you do?
Good. I think there are 2 or 3 mechanisms I normally use. So first of all is you have your direct reports team. Okay? So here I'm lucky enough to have a very strong team supporting me. So this is always a very good sounding board before you take any decision. So I tend to have my one or two people in the team where we discuss very openly all the topics. The second is, of course, try to put yourself on the shoes of your team. So try to understand what is making them to make things in a way or in another. And for example, over these days, what we did is we had weekly calls with all the finance team. So instead of having only the direct reports, the team meetings were with all the team in the call or in the meeting. And we try to keep it extremely informal, not to talk about numbers, but more asking, how are you? How is your family? How are your kids? Okay. It's not easy to be in a situation where from time to time your telephone brings some alarms. At the same time, the water is leaking in your home and you need to keep your kid motivated because there's home learning. No? All of this is where we try to be very close to our people. I'm not very fan of WhatsApp groups, but in that kind of situation, we created a WhatsApp group and we stick to formal communications. So if there's any concern, any topic, we discuss openly.
Fantastic. Please, just going back, and since you mentioned about the kind of culture you were creating in the organization, trying to lead it from the front, and I'm just going back into your initial days at the corporate world, this safe corporate environments. Did you have that picked up during your days when you were earlier at Novartis? And was that something that you picked up during those days that now you're implementing, those safe corporate environments and the survival skills that you have built up in the teams? Is that coming from those days, or how is it different in the high-speed markets that we are operating in UAE?
Yeah. I think I'm trying to reflect a bit. Yeah, so I think that my experience in the UAE now is going to be close to 5 years. And it's a very completely different setup versus Europe. No? So when you are in Europe, your volatility in the different parameters that you manage as a CFO or in a strategy or in the companies, they might change between 3 to 5% maximum. Okay?
It's a mature market, of course, with not so much of vagaries like
correct.
You said,
so you have a fluctuation on the currencies. It's going to be between 0 to 1%. Okay, inflation between 0 to 3%. When we go into a region like this one, the fluctuations and the parameters change brutally. Okay, so this is a first adaptation. From us, learnings that you can bring from one place to the other, of course, I think the cultural learnings or the leadership learnings that I got in big multinationals like Novartis, where there is a culture that was put in place at that point in time called Amboss, no? Where you basically try to, your role as a leader is a servant leader that tries to unblock obstacles to your team so the team can take the decisions by themselves without being scared about making mistakes or failing. Okay, this is the overall concept. Okay, we move into regions or cultures where maybe the leadership style is a much more directive style. Okay, where basically the boss mandates what needs to be done. No? So I think that there is a process of adaptation. You cannot copy paste one style into the other. Okay. Also within the UAE, I had two kind of companies. The first one was Julfar, very well structured from a governance point of view, public listed,
of course,
with some processes, controls, and especially governance very strong, which is mandate and required for public listed companies. And nowadays, I'm in a family-owned business, extremely successful, but where processes and controls has not been by default the strength of the company.
Sure.
Decisions are much more related to human relationships, connections, network. And of course, these you need to adapt your style.
Got it. You have worked in simple chemical companies to complex cell gene therapies, which are doing huge amount of research work. And From a CFO lens, you're saying the fundamental difference between a commodity product, since you worked in a lot of industrial companies as well, manufacturing setups, to a miracle product, a commodity product to a miracle product. Is there a cost of failure, which is where life and death? How different is it for you to manage that kind of, or shift that kind of perspective?
I think from experience point of view, indeed, I've been throughout my career, as you know, Rajat, very well, a lot of time in pharmaceuticals, but within pharmaceuticals, you have, of course, the generic business.
Of course.
And you have the specialty business.
Of course.
Nowadays, I'm in the business of the distribution of air conditioning equipment. Indeed, I think there are differences on how the business model operates. I think the easiest way to explain is the generic versus the specialty business in pharma. No? When you talk about generic business in pharma, your business model highly depends on pricing and highly depends on the distribution model you have in place. Of course, there is a big component related to the pharma business in generics, that is the tender business, which also is a very big important component. So pricing and distribution model is highly important in this business. When we talk about the other extreme, the other extreme would be biotech products, innovative. Here is more about the knowledge behind the product.
Right.
I would extrapolate it to everything that is unique. And here is about how you do this value proposition, not in price, of course, but on the value that this will bring to the end consumer. That can be a patient, can be, and what is the additional value that this product will bring compared to others.
Of course.
In the case of specific of pharma, for example, so the knowledge that the scientific community will bring to the doctor is much more relevant in this kind of specialty products than the price that is going to make the difference in a generic product. So, yes.
So there could be organizations where you could be playing a role of a discipline controller as a CFO, and there could be organizations where you are working as a growth catalyst, pushing the CEO towards growth and expansion. So how do you balance that kind of a thing? Because it's no longer just one hat that you have to wear, right? You have to keep a check on where the business is probably losing some money and where is it that they need to focus on, because ultimately the CEO could be someone who is just a sales-focused person, or who's very much a person who is built in to bring in operational, corrections. But as a job, you have worn different hats and worked across different industries. So how is it that you have balanced that kind of an approach of being a growth catalyst or being a discipline controller?
I think this question makes me reflect a lot, Rajat, on the evolution that I've been doing throughout my career. And together with two dimensions more. One is the team on which you equip yourself and the kind of relationship you have between the CFO, the CEO, and the board of directors.
Okay.
I think it's very important to understand what is the strategy the company wants to follow. So this is part of your maturity journey that you do as a CFO. Earliest stage of my career, I was just creating reports, preparing numbers, printing, and give it to my boss.
Right.
At this point in my career, I'm highly involved on the development of the strategy of the company. The second is what kind of team you have. So, and what kind of maturity the company has. It's not the same to be working on a big multinational like Novartis that being working on a family-owned business that has been successfully growing,
of course,
over the last 20
so many
years.
Yep.
Okay, where maybe many decisions are taken, as we mentioned before, through relationships with customers. So you need to really adapt as a CFO to understand what is the strategy that the board or the chairman is dictating for the company, how you are going to support the CEO, and what are your priorities. The team that you are building around you will provide to you as a CFO with the capabilities to do that. We, as a finance community, we need to secure that our numbers are correct. I always tell to my team there is in the finance community. I mean, finance has different dimensions. No? Has treasury, has accounting, has payables, has receivables, has FP&A. But at the end, there is one thing that keeps the finance team united and together. That is the loyalty to the balance sheet.
Of course.
So this is a concept that is key for us as a community in finance. Then how you support the CEO to achieve the journey that is ambitioned by the chairman and the board. This is the skills that the CFO needs to develop as he evolves in the career.
Mm-hmm. No, I completely agree with you, Ignacio, on this one. In fact, just a couple of months ago, before the entire situation here emerged, we had a retained search as well, where one of our clients was very clear in terms of hiring a CEO in Saudi. And this was one of the largest food retail companies, but with very strong finance numbers understanding. In fact, to the extent mentioning a CMA or a CPA or chartered, because they were very clear the person needs to know the numbers and use that numbers to grow the business. They were profitable. They wanted to have that business. So I second you on that the person that you're talking about, and you're not having that hat of just being a cost controller. You're looking at that to grow the business, which is where you're adapting your skills from a listed pharmaceutical company now to a family-run organization, which is needed. And I think most of the people in this region are looking for a person with that kind of financial acumen and that leadership ability.
Exactly. And I will add on this, Rajat. I think it's important. Also, as you evolve in your finance career, you go more from inside customers to outside customers. So at the beginning of your career, you are very focused on your boss, the CFO normally, or the finance director, on your business partners inside the company. As you evolve, your agenda is more outside, which is basically external audit, banks, regulators, board of directors, shareholders. Okay? At the end, these people, what is these people looking? These people is looking for reliability on the numbers. I mean, if you talk to the banks, they want reliable numbers.
Of course.
If you talk to the board members wants to ensure these numbers are correct.
Absolutely.
When you talk to external regulators,
the governance part of it, the compliance.
They will, especially in a region like UAE, where we are in a very early stage of all the tax system and so on. So we need to have reliable numbers. For the shareholders, especially in family-owned companies that are growing very successfully, what is normally the plan? The plan would be potentially IPOs, potentially expansion to other countries. You need to have a very good, solid financial understanding of your position, because this is a long journey where you will need to back up properly all your financials. So I really believe on your point, it's more and more happening where in this kind of companies, the CEO comes with a very strong financial background, because your external shareholders and stakeholders
are looking for the same kind of.
Wants that. Yeah.
Got that. No, absolutely agree on that one. Right. So I've read a lot of your thoughts. You are very active on the social media, Ignacio. And somebody mentioned about how Blackstone is investing over $250 million in Abu Dhabi's compliance and payment layers. I just want to understand, what is that they are seeing in the region away from the oil and the land, which of course has given phenomenal growth to the region. What is it that they're seeing in the infrastructure which the rest of the world is missing?
So I think the background so normally I like, of course, I mean, we're in a region where network and relations are very important. Yep. So if I would be in Europe, I would not be so active on social media, but I think this region forces you to be a bit more active and visible.
You need to be active here.
Correct. And then on top of this, I was a bit frustrated over the last weeks on the bad perception or the information on regards this conflict. So when you are going to Spain or to Europe, everything is very dramatic, everything is very negative. Even families.
A lot of propaganda news that you're talking about being highlighted from people who are outside the region, have no awareness of the region.
Exactly. So I wanted to react a bit on first of all, the good job that the government is doing. I want to repeat this, okay? The level of the people that is committed, I think is committed. I mean, is really continue investing, continue being positive, okay? I've not been many years in the country, but I also know, historically speaking, every time that has been a situation of crisis, Dubai and UAE has emerged much more strong.
In fact, completely. They have done much more than any other region would have done.
Correct. And then the last point is every time that there is uncertainty, there is opportunity.
True.
Okay. So I was talking by chance with people in US that they were thinking on potential opportunities for investments in biotech. And they were telling me, Ignacio, is it the correct moment or not? Mm-hmm. I said, indeed, it's the correct moment. I mean, the measures that the government is putting in place in order to support the bank systems, the hospitality, the society, I mean, it's amazing. Yep. I think there has been injections of billions from the government into the banks, okay, to release a bit the pressure of the companies, of the families, okay? So for me, this article on regarding the investment of Blackstone is another example, okay? These are not decisions that you take based on what is happening in this month. These are decisions that very solid entities have taken based on the future long-term plan that this region has in place. Mm-hmm. By chance, I've been also involved recently in discussions with payment solutions. Mm-hmm. And it's an important business driven by the dynamics and the growth that Dubai and the UAE has. So that's why this post came across, because at the end, where do you really see the immediate impact, not only immediate, but in the midterm and in the long term, is in the payment solutions.
Yeah, that's a big one, of course.
And the fact that a company like Blackstone is investing in that
is a huge trust vote that is coming from a global P investor. Of course it is there. Now that kind of aligned to the other question that I had, that do you switch off from the geopolitical noise that you see across different segments and spheres? Does that become a kind of a stopping block for you? Or you take your investment strategies both for the company or the organizations that you're working from?
Mm-hmm. No, I think that it's a good question both at the company level and at the private level.
Of course.
No? And I think that at the end, we as a finance people, what we do in the company, I mean, I always say finance is not about numbers. It's a social art. Mm-hmm. No? So at the end, of course, driven by the situation we are today, we need to be very, very careful and diligent and vigilant on what are the events that are happening, mm-hmm. and be agile enough to take decisions quick. But this should not stop us on what is our strategy as a company. So I think now is about balancing these decisions that you need to take in the short term based on risk management, but also ensure that you continue your agenda for the long term.
For the growth and the expansion part of it.
Correct.
Let's just switch tracks. Let's just follow a little bit of your passion as well. And I know you're not just passionate about it. You're fully into the football, right? And now you met the Somali football national team as well, right, Ignacio, some time ago? And you were quite moved with their no excuses approach, with the attitude. So how do you get that in your team, or your indirect team, with that hunger and grit that they showed? How do you build that up as a leader? In the team, you need to see that, isn't it? Correct me if that's not the approach, but I thought that's coming through with the kind of observations that you had.
Yes. No, I mean, indeed, Rajat, I think we talk already a few times, and football is my passion.
Yeah, I know that.
Football, I started to play when I was 6. I finished when I was 31.
I don't think so. You finished, are you?
I finished because I have a problem. Is that my brain wants to do things, but my body reacts 2 seconds later.
Differently.
Okay. But the way I try to continue being engaged is, yes, I follow up many teams here in Dubai. The style of football in Dubai is completely different than in Europe. I have to say I have good relations with some clubs or even coaches. And I created, now this week, we are starting a football camp in Switzerland.
Oh, lovely.
So I have my own football campus in Switzerland, which is run by 2 very good friends. Because I think football is a sport that can correlate a lot with life. Mm-hmm. So you have a 90 minutes, also life has
Absolutely.
A starting and an ending point.
Sure.
Is a teamwork. things can go well, things can go wrong, and it can happen within these 90 minutes. You need to train, you need to have a discipline, you need to have a system.
Sure.
You need to stick to the way of playing, and you need to respect that way of playing because it's going to be your stamp for the future. So there's a lot of similarities, and even in certain times, when I reflect on how business is doing or how life is doing, I try to think how this would be in a football match, how you would approach, no? Mm-hmm. Do you need to train more? Mm-hmm. Do you need maybe to, this week, train less because you need to relax and you need to think forward? So do you play attack? Do you play defense? Mm-hmm. So yes, football is important for me.
Absolutely. And I know you're extremely passionate. So just do you need to sometimes, as a group CFO, you need to play that defensive midfielder role where you are trying to create that opportunities and then push the CEO for that attack and ultimately that goal that helps the team win? Or is it just play in the middle and create the defensive strategies? Where do you see that role for yourself?
I think at the end, correct. There are different styles of playing and there are different philosophies. I think that the philosophy I have is basically the philosophy where you need to generate value for the company and for the shareholder. And you need to ensure that the game that you display is a game where all the team is involved, where all the team knows the roles, the responsibilities, and you might want to have one or two key players, but when you play, all the team needs to be involved, which is a bit the tiki-taka of Football Club Barcelona. No? You will have Messi, but at the end, the ball arrives to Messi knowing that all the team has participated in that game. The other one, very similar than Football Club Barcelona, is local talent. No? So now when I landed here in UAE, to ensure that you have a team that is diverse from a gender point of view, from an age point of view, from a cultural background point of view, I think this is important. Try to develop the local talent. I think Football Club Barcelona recently had a team with 11 players in a match from Barcelona, from the city or from Catalonia. So I think it's important also to support. The region is doing a lot of effort to support the local talent. There is a lot of very good initiative for the localization of the people, and I think that we need to support that, like in football.
Of course, yeah.
Can this philosophy get fine-tuned and adapted to the specifics of the situation on which the company is? Yes. Within the value generation approach, you might have as an overarching philosophy. Sometimes you need to play more attack. Sometimes you might want to restrict more to defense. But the overall approach will be to generate value.
Of course. You're right about that. And just follow-up question, Ignacio, on that is, with the amount of data that is there nowadays, with the AI tools that are coming in football itself, I'm sure you know it better on which angle, who's the player, what is the strategy that you have to do. Is your approach of falling completely on data in the business as well? Completely data is dictating what my next move is. Or as someone who's sitting in the boardroom and giving the complete inside information to the directors, you also go on a lot of gut? Or do you think the gut thing has completely gone? It's all now database.
I think gut is a very important component, very, very important component. However, to use the data properly is going to be a competitive advantage for those companies that have data, that have good data, and that use it properly. I will put an example that I think I put it also recently in LinkedIn, where I was checking the time of the match of Football Club Barcelona. I asked, what time is Barca playing? Okay? And what time is going to be Spanish time and UAE time? No? And the ChatGPT said it's at 4 o'clock Spanish time or Central European time. And with the 3 hours difference, it's going to be 9 o'clock in UAE.
Okay.
So this was the answer of ChatGPT.
Okay.
So then I said, look, sorry, ChatGPT, you did a mistake.
You need a change.
And then he replied, congratulations, Ignacio, good catch. Okay.
Okay.
So thank you. No. So what I want to say is that data is going to be very important to have good data.
Yeah.
I think that even the financial teams are evolving on having people fully dedicated to data. Okay. Now, when we started our careers in finance, the most important thing that you were learning was to do a posting in the system, debit and credit.
Right.
Now, the people that is starting in finance, they don't learn this because the computer will do the debit and credit.
True.
But they do the data. No, is this invoice properly processed, capturing all the necessary data in the system? No? So data has become more important. Now, how you use this data is where we need to bring the value as a humans. So I come from a company where the budget was done by artificial intelligence. So the controlling team was dedicating 0 time to prepare the budget because the budget was done by the algorithm, which is where we need to go. Now, the budget discussions were not based on the numbers that the algorithm was given. The budget discussion was based on the assumptions that the company has put on the system.
Yeah.
So the algorithm can extrapolate the numbers.
Got that.
So the maturity of the discussion
It's based on
is elevating a lot. You don't talk number or data, you talk assumptions. And this is where business brings, or these business discussions brings value. So definitely, I mean, we need to work on data. Artificial intelligence is key and is a competitive advantage. And assumptions, understanding the market, understanding the developments on the countries is where you will bring value. And then, of course, gut feeling at the end, experience is relevant.
Yeah, I completely agree on that one. Like even us at Archer and Bull, we are using AI and data to give us a lot of leads for various critical roles. We're getting that kind of data points on various people who could potentially be interested, the kind of talent that we could have. But the human element of evaluating and kind of fitting that according to the organization needs is not going anywhere. We're presenting that with that human touch and element of what fits in a certain organization. And that's continuing to grow with us with Archer and Bull.
Correct. So the other thing maybe, Rajat, here, what I believe is also an example. No? So if you look a bit the most relevant meetings that an organization will have in order to define a strategy or in order to assess how well or not is the execution of the actions to implement the strategy. No? These are discussions that happen normally at board level. These are discussions that happen within the different committees of the board. Okay? So a board member does not have time to question the data. Okay, the data needs to be clean. True. The data needs to be accurate. The extrapolations of the data and the discussions of the assumptions of the data are already given. So many of these discussions at this level, where is basically where we want to bring at our level value to the organization.
Sure.
Most of these discussions is about market, is about relationships, is about what are the ideas that a board member can bring to support the chairman and the executive team to execute something. And this will not come from data, will come at the end from relationships, and from gut feelings, from understanding the development of countries, of sectors, competitors. So that's a bit...
And that's the credibility part that you're sharing.
Correct.
With the equity that you have. And so I just want another question in the same regard is, with so many of investment decisions that you're doing, so much of hundreds of thousands of balance sheets that you would have closed in your 30 years journey. What's the one human metric that you will say that defines you, which you will say, okay, the kind of evaluation that I have done for my team, for myself, what's that one human metric that you will sign off your legacy and your journey with?
Wow, that's a deep.
Take your time, think through it.
That's a deep one. Huh?
And you worked across different geographies, different cultures. You got the complete understanding. So just something that really defines as a human metric.
So I think that there is 2 or 3 things that I would like to ensure that I stamp. No? So the first thing is, especially talking about the balance sheet, is ethics.
Okay.
So I always say, look, the P&L, it will give you the picture or the video, as I say, about the performance of the company.
Sure.
The balance sheet always give you the picture of how much people cares about the company. So, and especially areas like receivables, inventory. Okay, for me, this is a KPI of care.
Okay, that's an interesting one, a KPI of care.
Now, if I have a good level of stocks, if I have a good level of receivables, if my receivables are clean and healthy, this means that there's effort behind to take care of that.
Sure.
And this involves all the company, involves the commercial team, involves the supply chain team, involves the logistic team, involves the finance team. What I always ask to the finance team is take care of the balance sheet, as I mentioned at the beginning, loyalty to the balance sheet, and ensure that when you look at the mirror and you are representing the different building blocks of the balance sheet that you are responsible for, you pass the red test phase, the red face test. Okay? That you know that that specific area of the balance sheet that you are responsible for is clean. You took care of that. You look at the mirror and you are proud. Okay, this is the most difficult test. Huh? And then at the end, that you own it, that you feel responsible, that you understand what happened in the past, what is happening today, and you're able to project what is going to happen in the future with different scenarios. When all of this goes on, the concept of ownership is happening. And the concept of caring for the balance sheet and for the company is happening. So this is a bit what I would like to mark as a finance person, as a mindset in a finance team.
This is beyond what you have said, Ignacio. This is not just finance. I think this, and I've taken a note of the KPI of care that you're talking about. I think it'll just go beyond in other functions, be it in supply chain or IT or even HR for that matter. And I've taken a note of it. I think that's a deep one. That isn't...
The question was very deep also, Rajat.
The idea is to have that kind of an unplugged moment and an unplugged truths coming out, not just simple balance sheet or looking at the cash flow statements. And that's where we try to have that candid conversation. Yeah. Thanks for that. Just continuing with your football as a passion, where there are multiple stakeholders, right, from the coach who play a very important role. Unlike cricket, which is the coach is slightly... under the captain's kind of role, there's always a debate around it. Football, the coach plays a very important role. Then you have the manager, you have the owners, and of course the football team itself. A proper kind of a structure, compliance, governance is needed. How do you see that? The CFO is playing that role in the region. What's your take on it?
Yes, Rajat, I think it's something I'm quite passionate, and I will give you a football example again.
Go on,
so
please.
You know that I have passion for this sport, and of course I'm connected, and I have good friends in the... Recently, last week, there was a very important match in Spain. And I learned that before the team goes into the pitch, there is some decisions that needs to be taken. I mean, we're talking about high-level professionals that cost a lot of money to the clubs.
Of course.
So can you imagine that the final team that was jumping into the match had to be, there were different people that were involved in the decision of the team to avoid that a player, for example, that has a certain risk of injury was not getting injured during the match. So the decision is not only taken by the coach. There is a full team
that's taking that.
That is taking that decision or supporting the coach to take that decision.
Okay.
Because these are not only football players. These are important assets.
Of course.
Where the club has invested a lot of money.
Millions of dollars probably going into it.
So this decision is not only driven by the coach. The coach will suggest, and there will be 2 or 3 important players that will bless that yes, that player can play. And we will take the risk because we know that has played 3 matches in 1 week and we have a risk that he's going to be injured. But because of the relevance of this match, we are going to take the risk. Okay? So in business is exactly the same.
Yeah.
You know? So I think one important aspect that I think the country is doing very good steps forward is to, and there are many groups of people that are having very interesting dialogues and best practices. I'm part of the Board of Directors Institute. Okay? So how the governance of a company needs to be set up in order to secure that the company is managed efficiently in order to generate this value for the shareholders that we always talk about. Now, decision-making process needs to be very well coordinated between the executive team, the CEO, the different committees in the company that needs to be formed in order to support the vision of the chairman or the shareholders and the execution of the actions by the executive team. So something that is very relevant is to secure that this governance is established or that is going to be established in the correct way, ensuring that the shareholders protect their investment, that there is a body that is the board of directors that is facilitating and overseeing the execution of these plans by the executive team, and that the decisions are correctly taken in the correct level by the correct people. So that's, I think, as in football I told you before, the decision of who are the 11 players that are going to play the match. Yes, the coach or general manager is 90% of the decision, but there will be other important players that will bless or endorse that decision.
Got that.
Okay.
Great. No, that's really good information, and thanks for that, comparing it with the football thing, which is your passion. But we'll get into the penalty shootout segment now, Ignacio, which is going to be very rapid fire questions, and we'll want to know what your response to that is going to be, either a goal or it's going to be just a save at that point of time. So we'll get straight into it. First one, 100% accurate monthly report, or you want a 100% motivated team? What's your
100% motivated team.
Okay.
A 100% motivated team will give you 100% forecasting accuracy
well said.
very soon.
Well said. Second one, is growth at all cost a strategy, or is it a suicide mission?
Growth at all cost is a suicide mission, yes.
Okay. The UAE superpower, the Emirates' biggest asset, is it capital depth, or is it the execution excellence?
Execution excellence.
Okay, that came very promptly.
Yes, I think the capabilities, the vision, the empowerment they are giving to people, the involvement of the country decision makers, it's amazing. I've never seen this in any other part of the world. You can have a lot of capital, but if you don't execute properly, you will never succeed. They are doing an amazing job.
Mm-hmm. You've done so many transformations. In a turnaround, the biggest hurdle is the balance sheet, or is it the company culture?
It's a tricky one, this one.
Okay.
It's the company culture, but I need to elaborate on that.
Go ahead, please.
In any transformation, what is critical is whatever strategy the company wants to follow needs to be properly communicated to the associates. So, and then it will be up to the associate to decide if they want to be on board or not. I think it's fair for the associate to take that decision. So, yes, it's people at the end. And as I told you, finance is a social art.
Yes, you mentioned right at the beginning.
So at the end, if we implement the changes we want to do, the balance sheet will talk.
Improve on its own.
Will talk.
Got that. Is the AI here to replace the analyst or to challenge the CFO?
None of them.
Okay.
Artificial intelligence is our new friend. And we need to learn how to use it properly.
Okay.
So the analyst will benefit and the CFO will be able to provide more value.
Well said. Would you hire a brilliant maverick or a great team player?
Loyal team player, always. If I need a specific individual superstar, we always have our consultants that we can hire externally. But
Yes.
it's clear for the team spirit, it's always about team playing.
Okay. Ignacio, to be remembered as a turnaround architect or a value creator?
Value creator, definitely.
Okay.
Sometimes you need to use a turnaround to create value, but at the end, what I want the people to remember is that value was generated.
I think you put it very nicely. A lot of startups we are seeing, and they're reaching that unicorn stage, or called a unicorn. So $1 billion valuation means a company has arrived, or has it just started?
In life, we are always starting. And we are here to constantly generate new opportunities, new values. So we are always in a journey of starting new things.
Okay, I think you put it nicely. So your legacy in the UE, being the CFO who doubled the EBITDA, or a person who built great trust and built in the great credibility in the company?
Definitely the person that has built the trust and the credibility in the company.
Okay, that's fabulous. So we come to the last stage of the discussion of this podcast. What makes Ignacio exceptional?
It's a good question, Rajat. I'm a bit shy to answer this question, but honestly speaking, there are numbers, and behind any number, there is people, and there is care, which we talk. So I like to find this dimension behind every number that we manage in finance, and I want to ensure that this is acknowledged by the board and by the shareholders. So this is a bit something that is unique. It's not easy to do, Rajat, because we're in a world where only
numbers matter.
Numbers matter.
Line, yeah.
But I like always to bring this dimension. And the people who knows me knows that there is a lot of passion behind that.
That's deep. So we reached that stage of our podcast today where we have heard a lot from Ignacio and on a lot of things that are at human level as well as on the number side. But we have the most interesting part which is still left. We need to see a skill from Ignacio which is completely unplugged skill. And for that, we have a little bit of a surprise for us as well, where we need to see a little bit of a skill from your side, please.
Excellent. Good.
We're going to record this, please.
Hear the roar of the crowd ignite beneath the flashing stadium lights. We're the ones who own the night. Yeah, we own the night.
It has been a pleasure, Rajat.
It's been my pleasure, Ignacio. Thank you so much.
I enjoyed it a lot.
It's been my pleasure to have you and hear a lot of thoughts from your side, just not about the numbers, but how you have built up teams, how you have created exceptional value for the kind of employees that you work with. And we hope to see the World Cup and see how Spain beats up Argentina, right?
Okay.
This is Exceptional Unplugged, and wait till we connect with another thought leader in the next series.
Thank you, Rajat.